Hello and welcome back to another episode of the SuperCoach Corner podcast, where we're going through team by team and previewing year 2026. Up next, the Brisbane Lions, and joining me as always is Tyson. Tyson, another team ready to get stuck into it?
Yeah, ready to get stuck into it. And funny enough, they are the second team that we've done and the second best team for Supercoach scoring last year. So maybe it's going to continue in that order, but I don't think so.
Yeah, the two big dogs at the top, minor premiers into the actual premiers. So, two big dogs to start the two team previews. We're coming at you from everywhere, so you're listening through audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube as well. So make sure you give us a follow on all platforms. Similarly to the Adelaide podcast, we'll go through first start with the rookies into the mid prices and the premiums and go line by line. So without further ado, Tyson, may as well get stuck straight into it and look at the rookies from a Brisbane point of view. Obviously, as always, with a really strong side in Brisbane, that is sometimes a little bit lighter on when it comes to rookies, but there has been a little bit of injury carnage to a few of their players in the last recent years, which brings about some discounted price. And we'll start with that guy in particular in the defence. Is Tom Doedee has put together a couple of really good Supercoach years at Adelaide. Has really struggled to get his body right since moving to Brisbane. But I know I've seen a couple of iterations of your side. You've had him in, you've had him out. Is it someone that you're looking at?
Yeah, he was easily one of my first picked. I just thought, with a few seasons under his belt, he's been around for a while now. This would be his 10th or 11th year. At 189k for a guy that's going to be a lock in their defence, he's easily just going to get up to that 350k. Did that for Adelaide multiple times. From memory, started a year nearly at 500k, and a few people were, considering him. So yeah, he's almost locked into my side at this point. What about you?
Yeah, the body issue is the big one for me. He just hasn't been able to get in the park for the past 4 or 5 years. If he's playing round one, it's almost a free swing. Like at that price, it's sort of hard to say no. He's averaged over 82 in 3 different seasons across his career, averaging over 85 twice. So the scoring potential is definitely there. He's got a really super coach friendly role. But yeah, the body is the big red flag. But if he's playing round one, I think you just got to pick him and hope for the best.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I've seen a few iterations of what people think Brisbane's starting lineup is, and it doesn't look like people are tipping him to start in their side, but a lot of people do forget how good Tom Doedee is. Obviously his body issues, but when he was on the park, he was very handy to have for Adelaide, and I think he hasn't played a game for Brisbane, so it would be interesting to see how they mould him into the team. But yeah, one I'm firmly keeping eyes on.
Yeah, for sure. And then moving into the midfield, there's probably a couple of younger guys that you keep an eye on. One was the highly touted draft prospect from last year, Daniel Annabelle. I think he was an academy player for Brisbane, someone that they got the early dibs on. Played a bit of VFL footy for Brisbane as an underager, as a 17-year-old last year, and really didn't miss a beat. I think you've got some stats behind it, but he looks like he could really make an impact at AFL level this year. He is at that inflated price at 181k. He's in just over 8% of teams at the moment. It is a lot to pay up for a guy who's playing for a really good side with a really strong midfield. Is it
Mm.
is it too hard to pick him with where he's at and the team that he's in?
It could be. It'd depend on his role. But like you alluded to, he played a few VFL games before he was even drafted. So he played 8 VFL games for Brisbane and averaged over 21 disposals per game. In the VFL as a 17-year-old, that's a high standard of footy. That's some impressive work. A lot of people were saying that he could easily have gone pick 1 or pick 2 if he wasn't a academy player. A lot of teams wanted to pick him up, but yeah, being locked into Brisbane's academy, it's kind of hard to commit to a guy when you want to have your players being pick 1 and 2. So
Yeah, it's happened a few times the last few years that sort of happened. They've slid a little bit just because they are linked to a club already. Another one, it's hard to say. With rookies at this time of year, it is a bit of rookie rule out. You just sort of hope they're playing round one. For me, I think he's just behind too many guys. There's too many people in
Mm.
that midfield. And um, yeah, if you knew he was getting 60, 70% CBAs from the start, you'd pick him no doubt because you know he can do it and you know how good of a talent he is. But when you just look at the names ahead of him, like both the Ashcroft boys would get dibs ahead of him, Neil, Dunkley, Zach Bailey's getting midfield minutes. There's so many guys that will go through that centre bounce that I think if he's playing, he even falls further behind that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy to let that one through the keeper, I think.
Yeah, I am at the moment mainly due to the fact there was a match sim that they did not too long ago. I think it was just a couple of days ago, and Annabelle didn't take part, so it probably means he's got a little injury or something he's carrying at the moment. But if he is fit and playing, I'm even just on the wing, half forward. Like if he's that talented, I would be very inclined to picking him. Seems like he's going to be a gun for the future. But there was a match sim, and there was a guy that sort of creeped up on people's radars. It's by the name of Sam Marshall, I believe. He played on the wing, 197k, because he's played a couple games last year, I believe it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He got his spot
so
towards the late end of last year and sort of sub affected a few
yeah,
times. I think he was this. No, he got subbed in. He played in the grand final, got subbed out for Neil at half time. But yeah, it was a lot of sub affected games in that.
mm,
But we saw how strong Brisbane were last year. He was able to get his chances to sub and sort of keep that spot in the side because of how good he was playing and coming on as a sub, and then end up starting in the grand final, which is huge. No sub this year. If he's in their best 23, he's under 200k. It is a really inflated price. Um, if we're struggling for scoring potential in the midfield, he's someone that you could look towards. But yeah, I'm always really at that price, Tice. I want to be sold on the guy, and I'm just not like I'm not that confident in his job security and his scoring potential.
mm. Yeah, and he's out on the wing. Like it's the wing is a nice role, but the caveat that's might sway me towards him. I'm not on hot on him just yet. I need to see a little bit more, but I think it's the fact that he's a second year player. He's already started in a grand final, like you said. Like he's in favour at Brisbane currently.
Yeah,
That speaks green lights for me. So yeah,
yeah,
that's probably enough on Sam Marshall anyway. But
yeah. One to watch, and especially with no sub, it could be a big win for someone like him. To file out the rookies, Tice, we'll move into the forward line. There's a few to sort of look at. Ty Gallup, another one that sort of cemented his spot in the back end of last year, I think, with Eric Hipwood going down. He was one that came in as that sort of third tall forward and, again, played in the grand final and ended up with a premiership medal. He's a young key forward, so it's going to be hard for him to really score well even if he is playing every game. But, at 132k for a guy who was selected in the grand final last year, so that they love him. There's faith there. He's a really talented prospect. If he's like consistently getting a game, I don't mind it. It's a nice price and it's a warm body. What do you think with Tiger?
yeah, I don't mind it. He's kind of been a key forward though, so I'm just not on the key forward rookie train. Unless they're a really proven performer like a Todd Marshall or Max King or something like that, who's around that price range. So I'd rather lean towards them over a Ty Gallup. So yeah, he's probably a no for me at this
Fair
stage.
enough. What about when you mentioned proven performer? Does Connor McKenna tick your fancy at all? 121k, didn't play much at all last year, but he's a forward only this year after spending a lot of time off halfback throughout his career at Essendon and at Brisbane. Very cheap, but out of favour last year. Is there
Yeah,
any you just want him to play?
yeah, he's probably just not going to get games, to be honest. Like he's just there as a backup if they get injury ravaged or whatever. Like he could go forward or back line. Like if he somehow comes out of nowhere and runs off the half back again, even though they've got way too many down there with Fletcher, Zorko, and the like. So uh, he's not going to get a very Supercoach friendly role unless there's a few injuries. So he's probably just an easy pass for me.
Yeah, fair enough. And then the last one to finalise the rookies is probably Lincoln McCarthy. So yeah, 170k coming off back-to-back ACLs. For me, is a small forward with a crumbling body. I think if he manages to squeeze himself back into that side, um, I don't think the scoring potential's there and that inflated rookie price. It's someone that I'm also pretty happy to let go.
Yeah, well, you saw a couple of years ago, I went on COLEMAN, which was a big turning point in my season, which really helped me. So this is almost the exact same thing, like 170k for a small forward at Brisbane, who's proven to be good at footy. So he definitely gets games if he has the body right. It's just it doesn't translate to the best Supercoach scoring. He's usually averages around that 60, maybe even in the 50s. So it's probably a bit easier to pass on Lincoln McCarthy. But it's one I'm actually keeping my eye on at the moment.
Yeah, it depends. I think a lot of the forwards depends on a lot of the other. Like I think there's a lot of options down forward this year in terms of that, like 130 to 200k rookie proven performer who's maybe been injured and coming back from a long term off. I think he's sort of further down that pecking order for me. I think there's guys that I have ahead of him, but if all those guys ahead of him fall, your Max Kings, your Ugo Hagens, those sort of guys start to fall over and they can't get up for round one, he could be one that slips in and gets that spot in my side. But yeah, I think for now I'm more than happy to pass. But with that, mate, they will move into the mid prices. That'll pass all the rookies for the Brisbane side of things. Probably the most hyped mid pricer coming into this year in the defence was Kitty Coleman, sorry. I almost said Kai Lohman, since you got it on my head. Kitty Coleman, he was probably the most selected in every team this time last year, and then got injured again. He's just such a good player, played so well in that 2024 grand final or 2023 grand final. 2024, sorry. I can't remember. But he's such a talent, just hasn't been able to get his body right. Had the ACL, had a lot of quad and hamstring injuries last year. He's just one, if he's playing round one, you just have to pick him, don't you?
Yeah, it's as simple as that in my eyes. He was so highly selected, like you said last year, at 270k. He's now 233k. You're getting a 37, 36k reduction on that. And another year of preseason, like obviously it's another injury that's affected him, or another two really, because he did come back for that one game in round 10 last year. So, and yeah, like you said, that 2024 grand final against the Pies, he scored 140 plus, whatever it was, or 2023. You should know, it's a Collingwood grand final.
Sorry, yeah, I should know.
Yeah, he scored 140 plus Supercoach points. I think it was like 110 at halftime as well. He was dominating that game. So we know his talent. Can he get on the park now that they've got Jasper Fletcher really shining down there as well in the recent years? Does that affect his scoring or role, or longevity in the side? I don't know. It's just something we have to keep an eye on through the preseason and into the practice matches, is where he fits into that mold. Like Chris Fagan's come out and said no one's locked into the Brisbane side. So like it's a real fight for positions at the moment.
Yeah, I think if he's got the role and he's playing round one, he'll be in every side, but it's definitely something we need to keep our eye on in the preseason. Hopefully for him and for Brisbane as well, he can just get his body right at the end of the day. Would be huge for everyone involved. Moving into the midfield ties, a couple of wingers sitting at a pretty decent price. Levi Ashcroft is one that a few people are talking about. Can he take his game to the next level? He's sitting at just over 400k, coming off a very good first year last year. And then I've seen a few people talk about Bruce Revel as well, locking down that wing spot at the back end of last year. I think he's about 240k. Any interest in either of those guys? We know the wing can be a pretty up and down role, but would you take a punt there?
No, I'm not looking at Levi Ashcroft just for his inflated price. He's probably just going to play wing and half forward. He might rotate through the midfield, but he's not going to be one of the top 3, top 4. So he's probably an easier pass at 409k. As for Bruce Reville at 240k, looks like he's fighting for that wing role as well. Looks like there's a good 3 or 4 that are. So it'd be interesting to see who they pick, but he could also play anywhere. So he might just be that 5th interchange that Brisbane pick, and they can throw him anywhere on the field. So he's probably, an easy pass as well for me.
Yeah, perfect. Moving on, there is someone in the ruck who's also forward eligible, Tice. Sam Draper, moving across from Essendon. I'll leave this one with you. I know you're a big Sam Draper man, and he's definitely made an appearance in your preseason team. What's your thinking around Sam Draper?
He has made an appearance in my team. Not currently in there, but I had to give him his flowers. Back into 2024, I traded him in.
He has clutched up for you before.
Yeah, he only put up 90 plus scores for the last 10 rounds and was so good to have in my side. So I have to just add that in there. But yeah, obviously didn't play that many games last year, going down with injury. But being the number 1 ruck, if they go with 1 ruck, he is going to be a top forward in my eyes. If they go with the 2 rucks, it's too much of a price to pay. You're paying nearly 400k for a dual ruck. But yeah, you've seen it with Brisbane before with Oscar McInerney. He just put up good, serviceable scores. He sat around that 500k for his whole career pretty much. And I see the same thing happening with Sam Draper. Just because Brisbane are that good, their ruckman's still going to just get points. So I really like the pick, but I'm only picking if he is solo ruck. Are you tempted at all by Sam Draper?
If you solo ruck and there's no way that Darcy Ford will come in, I think they rate Darcy Ford too much internally, and he's done too much for their structure over the last couple of years in their success that I think he is a part of their plans moving forward. So they've won 2 flags, playing 2 rucks for most of the year. I don't see them moving off that. So especially like Sam Draper can play forward better than Darcy Ford and Oscar McInerney ever have been able to. So I think that just leans more to them playing both, leans more towards Brisbane playing both of them at the same time, which is not what you want. So unless I'm sure he's playing number 1 rock for a long stint, I'll be passing there. Moving into the forward line, Tice, a few guys here. Mentioned before, Kai Lohman, very injury interrupted last year. Just a lot of games where he got subbed off. He's at 250k. Any interest there? I guess he's similar to Lincoln McCarthy, but about 80k more expensive, but less body concerns, I think. I think Kai Lohman's injuries last year were very innocuous. Had a couple rolled ankles, a couple head knocks, those sort of things. So, like you said, he's clutched up for you in the past. A couple of years ago, was big in your run home. Do you just have to start Sam Draper and Kai Lohman just for the nostalgia?
I might have to at this point, but I think it was different 2 years ago. They had less options in the forward line. Now that they've got, your Levi Ashcroft, Dan Annable's going to probably have to run through that forward line. Like your younger players that are still coming up are going to have to run through there. Lincoln McCarthy's, we just have to assume, is back from injury. He definitely wasn't playing when Kai Lohman was popping off for me. So there's too many options for me this time to pick Kai Lohman. He's more of a pass than Lincoln McCarthy is at this point, just obviously because he's 80k more expensive. But have to give him his flowers again, yes. He did help me out.
Your man. What about the ex-West Coast captain, Oscar Allen, making his way across to Brisbane in the off-season at 317k? For mine, I love Oscar Allen. I think he's a really, really great footballer, but he's a key forward at that price. I don't think the upside's there for mine. Billy got his body right. Even if he's playing his best footy, I think he might get to 400k, 450k, and he'll have a couple of down games here and there. It's a big punt to make at that price for me.
Yeah, especially being a key forward. I'm probably still looking at him, but like you said, he's probably only going to reach 400k, 450 at best, and Like, you want to make 130K on the guys that you're trying to make money off of. That's a win, but that's at best. So you're not guaranteed that. Being a key forward, he's going to have his up and down games, but being in one of the better sides, is that not more enticing? He's 317K after playing at West Coast. Like, he's flipping the script. He's going to get more delivery, better service. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that back here. Like, is that not tempting at 317K?
I think he might get better delivery. I don't think more delivery. They've got a lot of options up there. I don't think necessarily he's going to be their number one man. So yeah, I think the quality of ball coming in will be a lot better, but I don't know if he's going to get the ball kicked to him as much as he has in the past at West Coast. So with the opportunities coming maybe a bit fewer and further between, he might struggle to get himself into the game as much. So yeah, at a new club as well, I just would rather watch it and wait and see it. So yeah, it's not someone that's there's a lot around that price in the forward line. Adam Treloar, Jordan Tagoe, just to name a couple, that I'd be much more, if they're playing, I'd be much more comfortable picking those midfielders than a key forward who has had body issues. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Oscar Allen. And that probably rounds out the mid prices for Brisbane. So we'll move into the primos to finish things off. As you mentioned, Tice, there's a few halfbacks last year that really dominated. And sort of, there's a bit of a merry-go-round for points. So I'll roll them. We'll talk about them all at the same time, I guess. Jasper Fletcher, Dane Zorko, and Darcy Wilmot. Is there any that stands out more than the others? Is there one that's interested you at all, or what do you think between these three?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned before, they had a match sim earlier this week, and Wilmot and Zorko played. I believe Fletcher was out, but they both ran off the halfback. I assume maybe for different sides or whatever. All reports are saying Zorko's locked into that halfback role, and he has been a very good performer. I know you hate him with a passion, so
Can
it's
confirm.
kind of, but yeah, like the match sim, they could have been on different sides against each other. You've got to try and fit all three of them into one side, and all three will play, but how that structures up. Zorko's been the main man the last few years. You've also got Kitty Coleman to come in as another distributor. You've kind of got four to run with now. In my eyes, like, Wilmot dominated the back end of last year as well. That's another thing they need to consider. Fletcher's probably the easiest one to move up to a wing, but they've got four blokes moving on to a wing that we've just spoken about. So it's going to be so interesting to see their best 23 lineup come, practice match time. I think it's too hard to pick one another. They're going to steal points off each other. Kitty Coleman's probably just the best one to go for, just being at 230K in my eyes. How do you see those three with Kitty Coleman?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jasper Fletcher is like the most, he's so talented and he's such a star, but they don't see him as a halfback long term. So with Kitty Coleman coming back, I think he will be the one that gets pushed out. Whether that's to the wing, whether they experiment him as that high half forward, if Zach Bailey's going into the midfield, maybe does he push into that Zach Bailey role? Is that something that they experiment with? So the role's too much of a question mark for Jasper Fletcher. Dane Zorko, yep, don't like him. I just can't touch him. But Darcy Wilmot's a really interesting one for me, Ty. So his best is incredible. And I just don't. I think if there's any smarts about Brisbane, like, Dane Zorko is 46. So, like, they've got to find that guy. Like, Kitty Coleman's there as their long-term halfback if he's fit. But Darcy Wilmot just creates so much for them. So I think there is a chance that he really pushes into that top caliber of defenders this year. And at 467K and 0.7% of teams, it's a really good point of difference. And it's someone that I've definitely looked at. He hasn't found his way into my side yet at all, but I really rate him. And I think he's just going to take his game to that next level, which he's done steadily throughout his career to start. Like, he's really built on his previous years for his first few years. So, yeah, I like him. But again, it's really hard to pick any of them, not knowing how that backline's going to stack up. So, I think it's just a wait and see.
Yeah. You definitely need to wait and see how they're going to structure up. Yeah, if Brisbane are thinking of the future, it's probably going to be Coleman and Wilmot off halfback, and just put Zorko into retirement.
I was going to say.
But but if they're going for the three-peat, which I think they will get, and we'll get to that in a second, but they should be playing Zorko and Coleman, and maybe Wilmot's good enough to play anywhere in my eyes. But we saw off the back end of last year, the last 5 games of the home and away season, he went 91, 90, 120, 123, and 119. So there's some big scores to have, especially with Zorko inside as well. So yeah, it's going to be just too interesting and too many players, too much up in the air, I guess, until we see a practice game.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Would you say the same thing moving into the midfield? I'll roll them off again and we'll talk them as a group again. They're big midfield for the quartet of Will Ashcroft, Hugh McCluggage, Josh Dunkley, and Lockie Neal. Is it similar? We spoke about this a lot last year that they sort of take points off one another. Is it too scary to pick one of those guys?
Yeah, probably. We said it a lot last year, yeah, that they're going to take up points off each other. So it's too hard to pick which one's going to dominate. There usually is one that scores pretty well for a period of time, and then it swaps. So can you, if you can pick the right one with Brisbane being up to the top end of the table, you will definitely reap the rewards. And McCluggage was probably the guy last year.
Yeah.
It's just hard to pick out of Ashcroft, McCluggage, Dunkley, and Neal as the main 4. Then you got to throw in Levi Ashcroft as well. It's just too hard to pick. Will Ashcroft's going to take his game to the next level, I think. Two-time Norm Smith, it's pretty hard to go past that. Lockie Neal's got his issues. I don't know if he's going to be a main midfielder. How do you see their structure being for the year?
Yeah, I think they'll keep the same midfield group. Lockie Neal apparently is having the best preseason he's had in his life, which is crazy to say after what he's gone through. Fagan has talked him up. I don't know if that's just to sort of shade what's going on, but no, apparently he's training the house down. Dunkley, you know what you're going to get with Dunkley. McCluggage, he set a huge high standard for himself last year. So can he bounce? Can he maintain that form? There's so many points to go around and so many players for them to go around too. It's a risk too. It's a question mark that I just don't want to have to answer in the preseason when you've got your pick for any player you want and you've got this money to spend. It's not something that I'm that interested in. They've got the round 2 bye as well, which I don't think we've mentioned, which is just in the early bye. I just don't want to be starting one of these guys. So wait. Does Lockie Neal go back to his form of 2022, 2023? Then you can pick him up after that round 2 bye. Does McCluggage continue from last year? Same goes. Pick him up in round 3. Does Will Ashcroft take his game to the next level? I wouldn't be looking at these guys until after that round 2 bye. And with too many question marks as well, I think you'd rather just wait and see. In terms of the forward line, Tice, we mentioned it briefly before. Zach Bailey made his way into the midfield group at times last year and played really good footy doing that. Well, if Neil has time off to, I don't know, go back to Perth, see his family, is Zach Bailey the guy that goes in and plays midfield minutes? I know he wants to be a midfielder. Can he get that midfield spot and keep it and score well, or is it someone that you'd look at down forward?
I would just say that it is all talk of him going into the midfield until there's an injury. But the only caveat I have going for him is the fact it's a contract year. He wants to dominate. They want to try and also get as much out of him so then they can get a higher price for him because it looks like he's still going to move away from Brisbane. It's just probably a win-win to play him in the midfield because we saw that he can play good mid. So, yeah, I'm definitely reading into this. I want to see Zach Bailey in the midfield, and he will be great to have in the forward line. I'm just not fully convinced it's the role is there. They're going to trial it. They're going to see what they have in preseason. But when it comes to the proper practice matches, when it's not two sides against each other, then they have to field one side. That's probably when we need to see Zach Bailey's role. And at the moment, I see that as a half forward. So, yeah, that's it for me, I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. I could agree with everything you said. And I think at 470k, you're paying up a bit for a risk as well. Like you for a punt that he's going to play maybe 2 minutes, it's a lot to pay for that gamble. So yeah, for me, it's you wait and see. But more than likely, playing half forward, it's not a role that you want. But yeah, that kind of rounds out Brisbane's players, Tice. In terms of their year as a whole, I think you mentioned it, but are you predicting another three-peat for the Lions?
Yeah, like with Lockie Neal stuff going on, it's made me less confident. But the fact that they've gone and picked up Sam Draper and Oscar Allen, two pretty good talents to come in to a back-to-back premiers side, and like no one's getting too old. Apart from Dane Zorko, who's in this side. So, and they've got the backups in the half backmen, so that we've spoken about tirelessly throughout this episode. So, I am picking a three-peat here for the Lions in this one. They've got a nice early fixture too. So it's definitely something you can look at after the round 2 bye, because then they go into St Kilda, Collingwood, North, and then Melbourne, Adelaide at home. Then they get Essendon and Carlton. Like that's up till round 10. So it's a nice favourable draw with only 1 or 2 hard games in there after their bye. So maybe just see how the team starts, and then before the price rise after round 2, maybe have a look at picking one of these premiums. If you can pick the right one, it could set you apart.
Yeah, completely agree. And in terms of, I think, wait for that buy, it's a pretty tricky buy in that round 2. So wait till after that. And you're right, like they're a quality side who's proven to be the best over the last couple of years, and their list has just gotten better somehow. Added 2 quality free agents. Get Kitty Coleman back, who is a talent in and of itself, who hasn't played much footy over the last couple of years. Lincoln McCarthy, we've touched on, again, has played really good footy at times throughout his career up at Brisbane, who they'll be getting back. So they'll definitely be up there. I think it's hard to pick at this stage, and they'll be one of 3 or 4 or 5 sides that will be really competing come season's end. So they'll be top 4, probably playing at a home prelim at the end of September, and we'll see where we go from there. But with that, mate, I think that wraps up our Brisbane preview. Unless there's anything else you can touch on, I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, sounds good. This will definitely be the longest one, I reckon, out of all the team podcasts. So that's my early prediction.
You're in for a trick. Yeah. And you can tell how long it is because we started in the light, and now I'm sitting here in the dark, and I haven't got the light on. So we've been going for a while. But no, thanks, Tyson. Yeah. I'll see you in the next one.
Good. Easy. Thanks, mate.